Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to today's Lunch and Learn. I'm Kerry McLean, the Program Administrator at the Ombuds office at CU Boulder. Helping to post chat messages and assist with other moderator functions is Liz Hill, the CU Boulder Ombuds Associate Director. And Kerry McLean, our Ombuds Director, will be attending to questions that are asked in chat. As you join, please feel free to open your chat box in Zoom, but please turn off your personal video within Zoom. When we have many attendees join, it helps us to present without distraction and for you to focus better on today's topic as well. In this Lunch and Learn, weathering the emotional storm of colleagues, coworkers, or classmates during turbulent times, we will discuss how to help a colleague, coworker, or classmate through a hard time. We will talk about having compassion for others and providing support, and how to do so without feeling depleted and emotionally drained. I'd like to take a moment and express my intentions and hopes for today's 30-minute session. My hope is that this session will be like a warm bowl of chicken soup, incredibly comforting and exactly what you need to hear. Many of the ideas I'm sharing with you are ideas collected from authors writing about this topic, or they are my own. My intention for today's presentation is to save you time by highlighting the top 15 tips during this 30-minute session. My disclaimer is that I'm not an expert at brain science or psychology, just an interested individual bringing ideas to share. Take from today's presentation ideas that seem of use to you. Feel free to leave the rest. Maybe you can think of new and meaningful ways to implement these ideas. If you want to go deeper on these topics, I encourage you to explore the cited resources on your own, or feel free to mention the desire to go deep on a specific topic on our feedback survey. From my experience researching this suggested topic, there are only a few resources that reflect a non-management perspective to reference. So there isn't just one book or resource I'd recommend. However, in keeping with the spirit of learning from one another, if you have an excellent book or resource that speaks to the topic of assisting colleagues, coworkers, or classmates through difficult emotional times in their lives, please do feel free to share in chat. Some items of note for today's session. There won't be a Q&A portion at the end of today's presentation, but I will be sending out a handout with both the works cited and counseling resources contact information to all registered live attendees after the Lunch and Learn presentation concludes. And Kerry McLean, the Ombuds Office Director, will be attentive to questions asked in chat and will do her best to respond to you today. We aim to reach as many people with this information as possible. Because of this, we will be recording this session so those not able to attend can still watch the recorded version at a later time. These recordings can be found under the Lunch and Learn tab on the CU Boulder Ombuds Office website. If you choose to chat, to interact, or to respond to my questions on the Zoom platform, know that your name may be made public in this way. A reminder to all that if you have a specific situation which is university related that you want to talk about, please contact the Ombuds office at a later time to schedule a separate meeting. I'm going to go ahead and check chat to see if anybody has shared any particular resources at the moment. And as we go, if something pops into your mind and you'd like to share that, feel free to share the author or the title, or if it's like a TEDx video or a YouTube video, feel free to share the link if you have that. We all learn better from sharing and learning from one another. All right. So here we go. When you first view lizandmolly.com, you're greeted with an endearing illustration of an elephant, lion, sloth, and owl sitting around a conference table. One animal is bored, the other is yelling, another seems silently terrified and anxious, all meant to depict the wide range of emotions you might encounter in a team meeting. In eye-catching brushstroke font, it is written, "The future of work is emotional." And judging by 2020 and the beginning of 2021 alone, that sentiment sounds downright prophetic. We're all discovering in real time that we simply cannot cordon off our emotions when it's time to work. There's no tidy box to tuck them away in before we join that Zoom call. If you spent your entire career trying to check your emotions at the office threshold or maintain a cool professional exterior, emotions in the workplace feels like uncharted territory. It's incredibly overwhelming and scary. But there's a silver lining. There's never been another time when it's been this safe to get vulnerable at work. You're stressed, anxious, isolated, and terrified, but so is everyone else too, says Liz Fossline, one half of the duo behind the lizandmolly.com website. Okay, attendees, I really hope that you share your thoughts on this. Do you think that we're in a new era of work mentality where now more than ever it's okay to be vulnerable at work? Feel free to briefly express yourself in the chat comments. A succinct sentence would be great because I'd really like to hear from you. I'll try to highlight some if people choose to share. Again, the question is, do you think we are in an era of work mentality where more than ever it's okay to be vulnerable at work? Not yet. Okay, that can be an okay perspective to take for sure. People are willing and welcome to bring their authentic self to work. Great, bond building to celebrate together the hard times. It depends on the situation, sure. Pandemic has allowed to be a little more vulnerable. Not for myself, but maybe okay for others. All right, depends. All right. Well, thank you very much for sharing some of your thoughts on that. I personally believe that there's two positive themes that are surfacing from reading on how this new wave of work mentality is and seems. The importance of not beating yourself up for feeling things and really listening to the needs behind emotions. So those are two positive aspects that are surfacing from my reading. We may now be able to unrepress emotions at work, which means that we might have questions about how much emotion we express before we come across as unprofessional. And what if our authentic self is overwhelmed and anxious? Should we be open about those feelings? And how does who we are, for example, our gender, our race, our age, affect the answers to these questions? I'm listing these as sort of rhetorical questions I puzzle about, but regardless of my thoughts, sharing emotion in the workplace has opened up a whole new bunch of ideas to grapple with. Well, we cannot possibly scratch the surface of or answer these questions in our Lunch and Learn today. We can start with a baseline understanding of our vulnerability and susceptibility to emotions. Emotional contagion. Anyone who has been sucked into a brain science lecture over the past decade may have learned how our brains are preset for emotional contagion. We can spread pleasant emotions like joy, as well as unpleasant emotions like fear. Emotions spread via a network of mirror neurons, which are tiny parts of the brain that allow us to empathize with others and understand what they're feeling. Did you see me yawn? Did you yawn also? When you see someone yawn, mirror neurons can activate, making you yawn in return. Your brain picks up the fatigue response of someone else visually close by. But it's not just smiles and yawns that spread. We can pick up negativity, stress, and uncertainty like secondhand smoke. Researchers Howard Friedman and Ronald Riggio from the University of California, Riverside found that if someone in your visual field is anxious and highly expressive, either verbally or non-verbally, there's a high likelihood you'll experience those emotions as well, negatively affecting your brain's performance. Observing someone who is stressed, especially a coworker, classmate, or a family member, can have an immediate effect on our own nervous systems. Stress makes chemical changes within the body. A separate group of researchers found that 26% of people showed elevated levels of cortisol just by observing someone who was stressed. Even bankers on trading floors separated by glass walls can pick up the panic across the room working in a separate market just by seeing their nonverbals. According to Heidi Hanna, a fellow at the American Institute of Stress and author of Stressaholic, a secondhand stress is a result of our hardwired ability to perceive potential threats in our environment. She writes, most people have experienced spending time with someone who triggers a stress response just by walking through the door. This can be a conditioned response from previous interactions, but may also be an energetic communication delivered by gentle shifts in biomechanical rhythms, such as heart rate or breath rate. The cues that cause secondhand stress can be very subtle changes in the people around us at work, yet they can have huge impacts. Our response comes unconsciously and automatically. And so often we feel fear and stress without even understanding why. Fear and panic are really powerful emotions, but they're not ones that we want to do away with. They evolved to help us as a species survive and to protect ourselves. While we shouldn't push them away, we also shouldn't let them take over our lives. So let's pause for a second. What does all this information about emotions and biological stress stuff have to do with helping a classmate, colleague, or coworker? It's simply this, that we cannot disconnect ourselves from the emotions we and others feel during hard times. We will feel the impact. In order to help others well, we must be well ourselves. We have to sometimes help ourselves first in order to help others. We want to be the calm within other storms. It's also our deep-rooted desire to be compassionate. Brené Brown shares a definition of compassion as a deeply held belief that we are inextricably connected to each other by something rooted in love and goodness. She also shares that the word compassion is derived from the Latin words pati and cum, meaning to suffer with. She says that often our first response to pain, ours or someone else's, is to self-protect. So hear me out here. There is a place for compassion and acknowledging the struggles of others and loving them through their pain. But often it is distanced and almost balanced by a need for self-protection. And while empathy is a skill set needed to bring compassion alive, empathy is communicating a deep love for people in a way that people know that they are not alone. We want to be able to connect and respond to people with love and support. We'd like to give them empathy and let them know that they are not alone in their pain. But in order to do so, we may need to protect ourselves from the depleting and emotionally draining parts of this service to others. So most of what I'm going to share today assumes the capacity to give to others empathy and compassion with a bit of distance and self-protection also. I want to take a moment and acknowledge those that perhaps have given and given, or through no fault of their own are currently battling the storm and are feeling depleted and emotionally drained. If you are the one undergoing the emotional storm, turbulent times, or trauma, please know that others care. Please lean on your support systems, your allies, and seek out counseling if needed. Liz is going to post a large list of resources for the CU Boulder campus to help with counseling and dealing with trauma in the chat now. These resources will also be shared in the handout after this session to reference. If you are the one in the storms currently, take care of your immediate needs first. And once things are less turbulent, if you can, then help out others. Understanding how we respond to stressors can go a long ways in protecting helpers from becoming consumed by these highly contagious emotions. The first tip I'd like to share, which I put up a little bit in advance, is to build natural immunity. One of the greatest buffers against picking up others' stress is stable and strong self-esteem. The higher your self-esteem, the more likely you will feel that you can deal with whatever situation you face. If you are finding yourself impacted by others' moods, stop and remind yourself about how things are going well and that you can handle anything that comes your way. To find yourself amidst the stormy chaos, and rekindle a sense of who you are, there's a really simple exercise you can do. Sit down for a couple of minutes with a piece of paper in front of you and ask yourself this question. Even in the midst of this chaos, who do I want to be? When you're actually doing this exercise, feel free to write for a minute or two. This exercise is an incredibly powerful protection against social and emotional contagion. It moves us from the space of thinking about our values as abstract ideas and into ways that our values can become more front and center. As a result, we become more agile, more focused, and more connected. And we all need more of those things in our lives right now. Neutralize the negative. We need behaviors that can neutralize the negative effects of a stressed person. Instead of returning a harried coworker's stressed nonverbals with an equally stressed grimace of your own, return it with a smile or a nod of understanding. The first comment in a conversation often predicts the outcome. Try to start your phone calls not with, "I'm swamped" or "I'm so busy." Instead, start with a breath and calmly say, "It's great to talk to you." Keep their dignity. Your classmate, coworker, or colleague may come to you in tears. Never make someone feel bad about crying or being emotional. Many people consider tears to be unprofessional, but that is only because we forget that we are human. We are all vulnerable to uncontrollable emotions. View emotional outbursts as opportunities to listen, to empathize with, and show compassion to another. Don't take things personally and let some things slide. This is an unusually stressful time to be living in. We just need to give everyone the benefit of the doubt and approach every conversation with love and intention. You may have to give people permission in your own mind to act differently than they ordinarily would because they are undergoing such a stressful time. If you can, just listen. Avoid making any assumption on why they are responding how they are. Instead, actively listen to the person and all their issues. Making them feel respected and heard helps. It doesn't have to be a lengthy conversation. Even a few minutes can help. When you listen and show empathy, it can strengthen your relationship with a colleague, coworker, or your fellow classmate. Lean into the grief. It seems that all of us are grieving something right now, and many of us are experiencing loss. It's common to feel alone in times like this. Sharing what you're experiencing and investing in human connections can help you feel better. Just knowing that other people are having similar emotions can be really comforting. Resist the need to fix. Probably the best way to explain this one is with a situational example. Maybe your significant other or colleague or coworker or classmate loses their job due to a layoff resulting from current economic conditions. Try your best to avoid jumping into fix-it mode. Many people who are not impacted by layoffs end up feeling helpless or even guilty because they are fortunate to still have jobs. And sometimes they channel or express that in unhelpful ways. I immediately want to help people start thinking of next steps and offer help, says Liz Fossline from the Liz and Molly website. But it's often too soon. There's nothing you can do to make this a positive experience for them. It's better to listen and let them grieve the loss. Reach out to show you care, but be ready to have them not want to talk to you yet. This is a moment when the most important thing is empathy. Consider sending them an email or a text with the explicit caveat that they don't have to respond. Give them space and time. Sometimes providing space and time for others to deal with what's going on at their own pace is the most effective way to manage an emotional colleague, classmate, or coworker and help them move beyond the situation in a constructive way, especially when they're going through extreme emotions or distress. Know what you can control and try to accept what you cannot control. This is easier said than done, but it's a small way to lift some of the weight off of your shoulders. Recognizing that there are limits to what you can do to help others can help you redirect your energy towards aspects of life that are still within your control. It's easy for your emotions and the emotions of your classmate, coworker, or colleague to get all tangled together, but Fosslien recommends separating them out. We suggest using a framework to untangle them. Take 15 minutes to create a list of everything that you are worried about. Then label each one as within or beyond to see the sources of your stress and anxiety laid bare. Beyonds are outside of your control. Withins are issues that you can act upon. You can't control macroeconomic conditions, but you can think of small things that you can do that are within your control. How can you care for others? One suggestion I discovered when researching this topic is to create an unfun channel in Slack or Teams where people can publicly share what they and their families are going through, so that work colleagues, coworkers, and classmates may know what's going on and can try to help. Here's an example of how this might work. During the toilet paper shortage last year, people posted on our Teams chat their need, and other members of our team offered to drop TP off on their porch. So now it's your turn. I'm opening up an opportunity for people on the Lunch and Learn Zoom call today to share some of the creative ways that they have helped others. Does anyone have an example of something they've done that was meaningful to someone undergoing a hard time that they'd like to share in chat? We have a couple of minutes to dedicate to this, so I look forward to hearing your ideas in the chat. Gift certificate to someone who lost their job. Great. Thank you for that suggestion. Sometimes it takes chat a minute to catch up. So if you have other ideas, please send them. Emotional support bear for a kiddo. Absolutely. Sure. Sure. It's just a little bit of kindness or tenderness in the moment can go a long ways. Any other suggestions or ideas? I think reaching out and talking to people and just kind of letting them know that you're here for them can be great. Yes, I think Ingrid just said it's important to just be there for folks who are suffering. We all want to be heard. I could not emphasize that more. That's great. Ask someone for a walk on a nice day over lunch. We certainly have great days here in Colorado to do that. That's really great. Asking, actually listening. Absolutely. Absolutely. A quick good morning text, letting them know you're thinking about them and checking in. I love that idea. These aren't expensive ideas or things that you can do to just touch and connect with someone. Let them know that you care. Connect students with campus resources. Absolutely. We have student emergency funds and campus food pantries and other great ideas. And Liz said, these are excellent. And I would have to agree. They are really excellent suggestions. Feel free to keep posting those. I'm going to continue on, but we can all benefit from hearing ways that you care about others. Maybe it gets some more idea generation going. Okay. My next tip is to know when to refer and take advantage of resources. It's always good to consider who else can care for and help the colleague, classmate, or coworker going through troubling times. Earlier, we shared in chat a number of counseling and therapy resources. Consider reaching out to or referring folks to the growing number of hotlines, groups, and other mental health resources available, remembering that they and you are not alone. If you are helping others but are feeling increasingly worried and depressed, I encourage you to also seek professional counseling assistance through CAPS if you are a student, or FSAP if you are a staff or a faculty member. Another option is to use your private insurance to cover counseling. While we would all like to help others, it should not be at our self-detriment. Along the same lines, please take time for self-care. As the old adage says, you cannot pour from an empty cup. Exercise and release bodily tension, knowing that fear, anxiety, and stress can be physically experienced in the body. Exercise, relaxation techniques, yoga, meditation, diaphragmatic breathing, all of these can release tension and help counteract our body's stress response. Or alternatively, you can take time to do 10 jumping jacks. Or if time allows, you might take a few minutes out for a movement break, like dancing to your favorite song or taking a walk around the block. Stay in touch. It is such an important time to connect and feel that we are here for each other. I encourage you all to treat each other with compassion and care throughout the workplace and outside of the workplace as well. Going back to the example of a layoff or a separation due to other causes, it is meaningful to later let your colleague, coworker, or classmate know how much you enjoyed spending time with or enjoyed working with them. Feel free to add specific examples and to personalize it. So many people tie up so much of their identity and self-esteem in what they do for a living, that a separation, regardless of the cause, is a major blow to their sense of themselves, their competence, and their self-worth. You can't change what happened, but you can help them remember all the things that make them special and allow them to feel appreciated, knowing they did valuable work or that you were glad they were a part of it. In other hard time circumstances, such as a death in the family, a divorce, sickness, you name it, an occasional telephone call to check in or even mailing a greeting card can be a way to stay in touch and show you care. Carry on. Stability and grounding during emotional times can be found in resuming daily work and social activities and simply carrying on. Contribute positively, or positivity. And of course, it's not just other people's stress that matters. Our own positive mindset affects the happiness of those around us. Research by University of California, San Diego's James Fowler and Harvard's Nicholas Christakis found that happiness can have a ripple effect by 3 degrees. If you're happy, you increase the chance of happiness in a close friend by 25%. A friend of your close friend enjoys a 10% increased chance of happiness, and that friend's friend then has a higher chance of experiencing happiness. Fowler, who has extensively studied social networks and how moods like happiness spread throughout them, has personally started playing upbeat pop songs on his way home from work so he can greet his 2 sons in a giddy state. Think of new and creative ways to proactively boost your mood. No doubt, many of these things can boost the mood of those around you also. Can you believe we just covered 15 ideas? Whoosh! These 15 ideas can help a colleague, coworker, or classmate through a hard time. So that's the main gist of my presentation today. I'd like to thank you so much for joining the presentation. I have some information. If you would like to learn about non-defensive questions that prompt others to drop their defenses and improve their communications, please join Liz Hill, CU Boulder's Associate Director, at the upcoming March 30th Lunch and Learn titled What's in a Question? The registration is open on our website. The address is listed at the top of this slide. And I believe Liz may have provided a link in the chat. Please remember all our current Lunch and Learn presentations are free to attend. Below the Lunch and Learn sign-up link on this page is the CU Boulder's Ombuds Office contact information. As a reminder, the Ombuds Office is committed to providing a space where anyone in the CU community, staff, students, and faculty can speak with us confidentially about university-related matters. We will offer you our best in developing strategies, analyzing options, and identifying resources tailored to your situation. At the current moment, we are conducting private consultations virtually and by phone. please call our phone number to schedule consultations. And before we leave today, I wanted to let you know I did put a bunch of the works cited links on this page to reference. You can maybe take a screenshot, or I will be also sending out in the handout to the registered Lunch and Learn attendees these authors' works that I have cited and read and compiled ideas from. So that will be going out probably later today. And we're right on the dot, nearly out of time. So thank you again so much for attending and participating. And I hope that you will join us again for future Lunch and Learns. Have a great day.